Hello, friends. Hey, just in case you thought I was born into a family where self-love was the most natural thing to adopt, I wasn't. And I just feel moved sometimes to share with you that I did not know anything about self-love until I don't know how many years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe 20. I was um I was unbelievably hard on myself. I was criticizing myself, doubting myself. There was just such an internal war and animosity towards myself. And it's very painful. I really understand the pain that comes with that and the anxiety and the lack of trusting yourself. So the family, I'm not going to go into my whole history, so don't worry. But the family I was born into, I had a very harsh father. My sister called him a tyrant years later. She said, "Yeah, he was a tyrant." I would say, "Yeah, that's definitely true." And my mom was under his thumb, totally scared, did what he wanted. And I was the one actually who would get in between them and tell my father to shut up, and treat my mom with respect because I had that fire in me, that feistiness. Um, but it made me hard, It was not like, oh, I can just relax and feel safe in my family because that was not the atmosphere. So it's something that I did not know there was such a thing called self-love. And I think many people would say the same. Like, what are you talking about? I've never thought about that. I don't have time for that, or something like that. That sounds like a very luxurious thing. So I get that, when it's not part of your awareness that you can actually stop being unkind and unloving to yourself, that there is a permission, there is a possibility for that, then we will just keep rolling in that old familiar harshness towards ourselves. And we are not happy, right? If you're still in that thing, you're probably not very happy. So the way I learned it was not an easy way. It was not just like a little bit here, a little bit there. I went through this huge spiritual awakening in when was that? The late 80s, and was living in this just incredible energy and love until about 3 months later, somebody took over my life because I had never learned to listen to myself, to trust myself. I was used to giving my power to my tyrant dad, even though I was fighting him. I was not free from him. So there was this fighting in me and definitely a lack of trust because there was nobody who'd ever said, "Yeah, Pernilla, that's right. You're spot on." No, so there was this inner turmoil, right? So when this person back in Denmark came into my life when I was in this absolutely open space, the space itself actually meant that I had no discernment at all. Literally, I was just in this love space. And so something happened. I'm not going to go into it. And he wanted to ask if he could stay at my apartment. He had no place to stay that night. And I said, no. I was in touch with what I wanted in a way, so I said no, but I didn't feel comfortable just inviting a total stranger into my home. And that's when things started turning around because he talked me into doubting my own no. And he did a very good job at it. It didn't take very long until I thought like, oh yeah, yeah, that's probably true. So I did, and that ended me up in 5 months of absolute hell. After 3 months of absolute heaven, was about 5 months of absolute hell. And that's when I moved to California to be with a teacher who had been a student of Joel Goldsmith. And Joel Goldsmith's book and meditations was the reason that I had this big opening. Okay, that chapter is over. But it made me realize after I got out of this absolute chaos, thinking God had left me, there's something wrong with me. What am I doing? This internal war. And when I moved to America, well, yeah, I came to America to be with this teacher who had been a student of Joel when he was still alive. That's when I started kind of being able to pull all these pieces apart a little bit and start looking at like what happened there. And it took me many years, guys. It didn't happen overnight. So the first thing I started seeing was like, I really felt it was not okay, and I wasn't listening to that. And that's why I ended up in such an absolutely terrifying and horrific situation for 5 months. But it opened something up in me. I mean, the light came in and I was in heaven. And then as the light comes in, then you start seeing what's going on. And that's when I started realizing how important it is to bring love to ourselves, our values, our yeses, and our nos. And over time, again, I kind of figured out how to do that. And eventually, I created the all formula, ALL, allow, listen, love, ALL. And that was kind of a 3-step um, formula that I could see that actually really worked. Instead of resisting, you allow. Instead of, not listening, ignoring, you start to listen. And then whatever comes out of that, you learn to love, and you actually learn from that. So that to me is that's kind of the way to be loving to myself, is to just come in and listen to the body. That's why the body is very important. Now, back in Denmark, I did feel a clear no, right? My body was on board, but I was not on board. I was not meeting that part of me with care, with value, because I had had none of that when I grew up. So that's why it is not just that easy to switch to self-love when you have never done it, when you haven't lived in an environment where that is the atmosphere, is that it's natural. And most of us didn't grow up in that. So by me sharing a lot of it here, I'm hoping to shine some light of the possibility that we can actually honor ourselves and listen to ourselves with an openness. And it's kind of turning the tides inside, where we learn to listen to ourselves first. If I had done that back in Denmark, the no, I would have stuck to the no. I would say, no, it doesn't feel right. And then he could say all the things that he did, but it wouldn't touch it because I was honoring the no that I felt. And it would have prevented me from going into an absolute hell realm. So I learned it the hard way. It was not something I received when I was born into my family, as it is the same for most of us. Back in those days, that seemed to be how it was. It was not part of our consciousness at that time. And when I started writing my first book, Imagine Being Kind to Yourself, many people still didn't compute what that meant. Many of my friends were in the spiritual communities, and self-love, being kind to yourself, it was about getting rid of your ego, basically. Very unloving approach to do that. and it doesn't work. It just makes you bypass. So I was bypassing the no that my body was saying, right? It was a very strong bypass. Um, Thinking I should do that, it's the right thing to do that. And but it's not. The right thing to do is just going inside, feeling into, is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it a stay? Is it a go? It's a real felt sense movement in all of us. So learning self-love is not something you learn overnight. Learning a new language is not something you learn overnight. And we're talking about body language. They're so intimately connected. The embodiment piece and the body's language and the willingness to pay attention to that lovingly. And the more we do that, and I've done this for so many lifetimes. I was going to say that's not true because I kind of missed the boat most of my life here. But I've done it for so many years that it is so natural for me. Today I cannot even imagine being hard on myself. If I make mistakes, it's like, oops, then I do anything I can to make it right. If somebody got hurt, something, if I did something to anybody because of my lack of awareness, I'm not going to beat myself up. It doesn't do anything. And it doesn't heal if I broke anything in a relationship. So I mean, I'm also a work in progress, like all of us are, but it's kind of a learning process of like, oh wow, I blew it, I screwed up. Let me either apologize or say, can we do it this way? But it comes from a place where I honor myself, I listen to myself, and I take it seriously because my intention is to live in and as and from my heart. If I make mistakes, then I'm not going to push that part of me outside of my heart. That part needs my heart probably more than anything. So if I do something that's, out of alignment or something, it's like, oh wow. So I bring it in. It's not even a practice. It's just automatic. And that's how it will be for anybody practicing self-love. It just becomes your second nature because it is, well, I was going to say it is your second nature. It's your first nature. And when we start living from our first nature, our expression is like, I don't know why they call it second nature, but it aligns with it. So there's no separation between the two. It's just all one thing. It's just all love, including the parts that maybe temporarily jumped out of love. We just bring them back in and integrate them. So if you are struggling with it, reach out. I didn't have anybody to reach out to when I went through all my struggles. I knew nobody because it was not here. It was not available. So it is available now. You can certainly follow me on YouTube. You can buy my book. You can join me in some of my online programs, and you're welcome to reach out if you need more personal one-on-one attention. And I'll put the links down in the description below. So what happens when we really move from that place inside? We bring a whole new energy to the world because we are not blocking our own love anymore, starting with blocking it towards ourselves. So we open the portals, and then this love, it's kind of like it moves before us. It moves ahead of us because we are that. It's like our aura or the bubble. We are that. And then what we meet out there resonates with that. And it doesn't resonate with, the beating ourselves up anymore. That's a different frequency. So please reach out. And if you want to, this just coming Wednesday, it's Monday today, you're welcome to join my free webinar called Awakening the the Fearless Kitty, Awakening the Fearless Light Worker Within. And that is, we'll be talking about, what gets in the way for really expressing who we are and how can we deal with that. That's a very short version of it. The link with the description is also in the description below, and it's a free webinar this coming Wednesday. You're more than welcome to join. It would be lovely to see you there live instead of you just seeing me. We might be able to interact a little more. So, my friends, go love yourself, be kind to yourself, and I hope to see you on Wednesday. Thank you so much.